Hey, hello there. I am Jaime Elizondo from Real World Ranching, where our goal is to maximize your profitability while you improve your land the fastest. And today, I am eager to share with you how to increase wildlife in your farm or ranch thanks to the Total Grazing program. Remember, in this Total Grazing program, we not only avoid overgrazing in your land to create more humus and higher quality forage, but also we set aside around half of the property to use as stockpile for winter and dry times, feeding your livestock and, of course, your wildlife. If you know of anyone that can benefit from hearing this or is interested in wildlife, please share this link with them. Wildlife is an essential part of the world we live in, and we want more of them and more diversity, as they are also a signal of good environment health. So we must ask the question, what can we do to draw or attract more wildlife into our properties? Well, let's start with wildlife needs. All living things have a life cycle, and in that life cycle, there are different stages when they are most vulnerable to pests, predators, diseases, and lack of feed. Wildlife is not the exception. They also require good quality feed at different times of the year. Feed that would disappear under selective grazing, be it rotational or continuous, when they have a high to very high stocking rate, which, if you are one of my total grazing students, you know that is what determines ranch or farm profitability. The number of productive animals your land can carry at a low cost per year. First, let me tell you that I believe a savanna type of landscape to be the most pleasing and productive landscape possible. This means that trees are very welcome in my point of view. They also improve the environment and provide habitat for many species above and below ground. When they do selective rotational grazing, which I need to mention is better than continuous grazing, but falls short of potential. We may run out of forage in a drought when we do selective rotational grazing. This means that if our livestock are suffering from a lack of feed, our wildlife can also suffer the same, right? But under the total grazing program, we do not have to run out of feed due to us having a large stockpile area in parts of the farm or ranch where there is absolutely no grazing for the most parts of a year, and in desert areas for up to 2 years. So no one goes there, not even the livestock. If we give it some thought, we can realize how this will impact wildlife too, where they can go to those large areas, and especially the most exclusive species can have enough place to roam. But they also need feed, and more importantly, good quality feed in certain stages or seasons of the year. Under the total grazing program, as my students already know, the best forage species have a chance to establish and dominate due precisely to those large stockpile areas with a year-long rest, depending on environment. This brings to mind a large ranch in the Chihuahua Mountains of Mexico at high altitude, where mule deer and cowy deer and white-tailed deer started to concentrate as they came from the neighbors' ranches in the winter and dry season due to some very good species of grass coming back and dominating after 2 years of the total grazing program. The grass name I am referring to is Eragrostis intermedia. That's the Latin name. And it stays green through the winter at those high altitudes, even when it snows, which makes it the only green grass available, and mule deer seek it out. Before implementing the total grazing program, the selective rotational grazing that they were doing meant that the cattle were allowed to select. And this happens anytime you try to leave a higher residual than a total grazing. The livestock we're looking for anything green in the winter and the dry season, effectively overgrazing those species that maintain green leaves in those seasons. This caused those better species to go extinct. But now, under the Total Grazing program, those better species came back from the soil seed bank along with palatable brush species with deeper roots, which also maintain their green leaves in the dry season. And those species produce seed, and now we have a lot of them. So that in the dry season and the winter, both livestock and wildlife have much better quality and abundance of feed, which is like a magnet for the wildlife of the surrounding area, which now are attracted to this property. Wouldn't you like that, to attract wildlife to your property? Wildlife is an important component of any ranch or farm, as they help build up biodiversity, which brings resiliency and the diversity in the profits to your ranch or farm. Many times, folks will come a long way and pay just to be able to observe some rare or special species and have a good time in a nice and productive environment. We need to think of the whole, and this includes wildlife. In Florida, on another property, the number of white-tailed deer and the Osceola turkey has increased manifold after doing this total grazing program for a number of years. Quail numbers are also increasing along with predators. And let me tell you, not using any chemicals on the soil or on our livestock also helps to build up the soil life that is so necessary for this higher quality forage that draws in wildlife. With the total grazing program and using adapted livestock selected with the right guidelines, we will increase our humus soil content, which means a much higher quality forage for all, livestock and wildlife. With the long rest periods afforded by this program at high to very high stocking rates without overgrazing, we can build fat roots in the best forage species our livestock and wildlife require for health and reproduction. I really love this. We can produce much better forage at higher quantities at a lower cost using our livestock at high stocking rates to improve the environment, which also creates better habitat for our wildlife. So this is how nature works. Nature always strives for higher production and higher complexity, if we allow it. Many times, people have a mental image of how a paddock or a pasture will look after a total graze. But what they do not consider is the effect this has on the rest of the property, which means a much longer rest period and a stockpile in a large area for the difficult times. This also doubles up as a haven for wildlife. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Until then, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, iTunes, or YouTube, or join us for the weekly email at www.rwranching.com/join. See you soon.